Well, g'day folks, and welcome to another regatta review. This time we're covering a couple of regattas, so although briefly, but what's really exciting is we have a special guest with us, Binky Kafuri. Hello, Binky, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Guy. How are you?
I'm great, and thanks for joining us. Alan, as usual, how are you, Alan?
I'm fine, Guy, and hi, Binky. And it was a very busy weekend, and it's going to be busy for the next 4 or 5 weeks, I suspect.
Well, it's all really ramping up now, isn't it? Hey,
Yeah.
before we get cracking, Alan, on all the reviews and who's done what and where and so forth, I want to have a quick yarn to Binky. I'm going to refer to you, Binky, as a rowing tragic. Is that an insult or is that a compliment?
No, that'd be a compliment, and it's quite accurate.
I do recall the first time we sort of officially met. I know we met on the banks. I think James introduced me once or twice, but I do remember the first time we sort of sat down and chatted was up at Mount Buller. I don't know if you will remember this, in January last year, having a beer. I think I was in the middle of a run, funnily enough, and I was, as I've been known to do in the middle of my run, I've peeled off to the Alpine retreat because I saw a few blokes having a beer. Anyway, you turned up, and I think you'd just taken some boats, or in the process of taking boats, over to Falls Creek after the landslide and went the long way for about 8 hours or something ridiculous.
Yes,
Is that about right?
Followed the trailer to, it was about an 8-hour journey to Falls Creek for a rowing camp.
So I'd call that an absolute rowing tragic without a shadow of a doubt. Good on you.
We'll do anything for our children. I'm probably a Mount Buller tragic as well.
Yeah, yes, I gather that. That's not a bad thing too. And funnily enough, of course, there's plenty of people who listen to this podcast who are Mount Buller tragic too. It goes with the territory, doesn't it, a little bit, I'm afraid? I don't know. So tell me, Binky, what got you into rowing in the first instance? Now, I know we're going to chat again at different times. We'll probably have an individual podcast with yourself and hopefully your daughter. But in the meantime, tell me, what got you started in rowing?
Well, I was a student at Lauriston, and we had a great rowing program in the mid-80s, and they still do have a great rowing program.
Yep.
That's how I originally got into rowing. My dad actually was also a rower, which might have influenced my decision to row.
Yep.
And then carried on for a couple of years in club rowing after school.
Yeah. Whereabouts was that?
And also some coaching, schoolgirl coaching.
Oh, yeah. What club did you row at?
Yarra Yarra.
Oh, of course. That goes without saying. And then you did a bit of coaching too.
Yeah, fresh out of school, coached at Genazzano.
Oh yeah, yep. They certainly. Well, I don't know. Alan can fill us in what's happening there, but they certainly seem to have a few boats on the water from in some years, sometimes more successfully than others.
They actually have a parent who's actually written the history of Genazzano.
Oh yeah.
In book form, and I met the sports master on the footbridge at the weekend, and he was telling me a little bit about what's happening there now. But are
you going to elaborate on that, or will we get into trouble?
No, not much. Keep going.
No, we try to keep the politics out of these things, as you know. We
it wasn't so much politics; it's just confidential stuff.
Oh well, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all
back in the day, it was a really fun rowing program, fun for the coaches, fun for the girls, and and since then I then started a family of my own, and both of my children have been involved in rowing at school, but just taken very different avenues to do it. So my older daughter went to one of the big rowing schools and went through that program, and my younger one is a single sculler and went through club rowing.
And who's still going successfully?
Yes, she is, yeah.
Do you think there's a difference of going through those two structures? I mean, obviously there is. What's your outtake of that?
Oh, look, both ways are perfectly fine. I think the school programs, when they're done well, are excellent, and we had a very good experience. We had a great team of parents on the committee, really involved, and those parents are still great friends of mine, and all the girls that my older daughter rowed with are still her very best friends. So she's had that wonderful experience at school. Yeah. But when you don't go to a rowing school, which my younger one she moved schools at the beginning of year 10, and that school did not have a rowing program, so we had to find another way to keep her involved with rowing, because
Yep.
she had started out in year 9 and really enjoyed it. So we went to Sue Chapman Popper's rowing school, which
Yep,
was probably the best thing I've ever done for my daughter. Sue taught her the fine skills of single sculling, and
And she has an interesting
is
tactic,
history.
doesn't she, though, Sue? You know, she has a very interesting take on it. I like it. I like the old school view of it all. But
Oh, she's very old school. She
very old school.
She doesn't mince her words, but she
Oh, no.
knows what she's doing. And in fact, Sue coached me back in school days, so I know her
Ah,
a long, long time ago. And then she introduced Zara to David Orchard, who has a long history of really building elite single scullers.
Yep.
The likes of Rhea Thompson and Rosie Popper have gone through his program.
oh, yeah. Okay.
And he's doing wonderful things at Yarra Yarra with a group of young scullers. So that's the program that my daughter currently rows with.
On that, I had a bit of an argument at home, dare I say, about a comment that I made that rowing, anyone can row. You know, anyone can get into a rowboat and go for a row. And I got heavily ripped into by my kids, saying it's elitist, it's private school, it's this, that, it's everything else. But I mean, yes, obviously there's an element of that, but all these rowing clubs have these great learn to row programs. They open the door to kids from anywhere and everywhere. I understand you've got to be within travelling distance of it. I mean, you're not going to be doing ice hockey if you live on the other side of town of an ice hockey rink. I know that one from experience. But, you know, the same applies. You've got to be within the vicinity of it. But it is accessible, isn't it? And that's what people need to realise.
Absolutely. There are lots of, well, I've come to know quite a few of the girls from club rowing now, and they come from all over Melbourne, actually. Some of them do travel great distances to go to their clubs, and they're really motivated to participate in the sport. The only difficulty is introducing them in the first place.
Yeah.
They don't know that the clubs are there and
No.
willing and really enthusiastic to take on juniors. You know, it's hard to get that message out, and I'd love to see more kids who don't go to rowing schools have the opportunity to participate, because it's such a wonderful sport for kids to get involved with.
Well, there's
Teaches
the
them so much
marketing
about
department.
life, you know.
That's the marketing department at RV and RA that need to listen to that comment, isn't it? I mean, that's what it is, isn't it? It's about getting the message out, and especially around Olympic years, that's the time to do it. Because I think we all know, obviously we're all a bit biased, but I think we all know where a lot of the medals come from. And if you're ever going to be promoting to the young kids, Olympic years are the times to do it.
Well, interestingly, I've just come back from New South Wales State Championships, and a lot of their elite young rowers are from club programs.
Yeah.
It seemed, I'm only speaking from sort of anecdotal, what I see on the water.
Yep.
The rowing club, particularly in the singles and doubles and other small boats, those kids have not come from big school programs. They've come from the clubs.
Yeah, and been
So
fostered through that
obviously there's
process.
a whole different culture to it up there as well.
Yeah.
We focus very much on the big boats, and I understand why schools have to do that, because you can't have hundreds of kids in single sculls all over the place. But
It costs a bit of money
it's
too.
just a different structure up there, and it's very successful.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And it's all about funding and stuff. Oh, hey, Alan, I'll tell you what, I've gotten to the bottom of Ngambie Gold. Stay tuned. Hopefully there'll be a podcast on Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday that will answer all the questions we had about Ngambie Gold and what it's about and so forth.
I hear Ngambie Gold's somewhat controversial. Keep going with Binky.
Well,
It may be.
I do know that some of the athletes from the National Training Centre are coming down,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's fabulous to
Yeah.
get that kind of competition. It's going to be a real spectacle.
Yeah.
Tara Igney and
Yeah, Tara and
Amanda.
many of them are coming down, and I think more would have entered if they could have. It was
Well, if you consider the actual prize money up for grabs is very serious. It's not just a few $100 here and there. I mean, $5,000 a seat plus the if you win the prognostics, you've got the bonus. What is it, 10 or 15 or something on top of that? So you could be walking away with $30,000.
I was talking to the mother of one of the elite under 21 scullers in New South Wales, and I don't think they would normally travel to Victoria for regattas, but she said, "Oh, we didn't know you had prize money in Victoria." And I said, "This is
Neither did we."
Well, I can tell you, stay tuned because it's only the beginning of this. It's as I said, hopefully on Wednesday or Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday, there will be a little podcast with the people behind it, so to speak. Anyway, more info to follow.
Well, Guy, we should probably mention that Binky's daughter Zara won head of schoolgirls last year.
Yep.
And was second at nationals in schoolgirls, and has been probably our best rower, best single sculler for some time, and won a gold medal. I saw Binky, which just by pure chance I saw in a composite in under 21 quads, and of course was fourth in under 21 single sculls. What did she think about all that?
Yeah, it was. It's a very competitive fleet up there. It really is a preview to nationals. And some of the under 21s were also rowing up in the under 23s. So that group of girls are very, very competitive. There's a healthy rivalry between Sydney Rowing Club and Sydney University Rowing Club. So Zara was there to help get the Sydney Rowing Club the gold, which I think they have won for the last couple of years. So they were very determined to.
She was in Bow, wasn't she?
She was, and they rowed very, very well. She had a great time.
And
nothing wrong with a gold medal, is there? That's for
no.
Sure.
And I see that Yarra has recruited Thea Cool, who's one of my favourite rowers from Wesley.
She's a fabulous athlete, Thea, and has joined David's program. In fact, she was training. She has trained on and off with David's group for quite some time, but hasn't competed with that group because she had other.
I thought she was in Austin, Texas, when I last.
She was, and she's returned to the program now, and she's very fit, very strong.
And she's very funny.
That's important. It's important, especially in this sport. You got to have a sense of humour. For God's
you got to
sake.
have a sense of humour,
Oh God, got to have a sense of humour. But never mind, that's the way it goes. Now let's get right into it, Alan. What should we start off at the Barwon and what
the
happened
little
down
one
with the
Firbank
regatta? Yeah,
well,
only the juniors and inters, is that correct?
Yeah, it was. Although I heard a senior member of Firbank saying that maybe they should expand the regatta, whatever that means. Look, it was a lovely day. Firbank, and I don't get to see Genazzano do their thing at Victoria Champs, but Firbank and Loretto always present fabulous regattas, and Firbank were happy. Their program's doing well, and it was a marvellous regatta. There was a bit of a headwind, so if you look at the times, you're going to see.
I was wondering that when I was looking, just
3:54 minutes rather than 3:39s, 3:40s winning.
Yep.
It was a very, very good day. They actually managed to time about 95% of the events, which was good. Because numbers were down, the thing finished about 4:15 versus 5:45 last year, so that was. That was appreciated.
That's not a bad thing sometimes.
No, it isn't really. I mean, as I said to you before we came on air, I didn't get tired this week. I met lots of lovely people. In terms of the results, if we turn to inters first.
Yep.
In terms of small boats, in terms of single sculls, I mean, Katie McNeil, if she bothered to enter single sculls at head of schoolgirls, would win by 30 seconds. But there's there is a pattern emerging between a lass from Footscray, another one from Barwon, another one from Toorak College. I mean, you've got a bit of a pattern emerging for head of school girls.
Yep.
But it all blows out the window if Katie decides to row that event. We shall see. In double sculls, there's a lass called Ahern and two lasses called Ahern and Smith from Sacred Heart.
Right, yep.
There was a very famous, not famous, famous in my world, Ahern a few years ago from Sacred Heart did particularly well. They probably are favourites at this stage.
Yep.
I'm really
You see a
confused with
solid
the
win
eights.
by-
You would be interested that the Wesley first eight decided to kiss the spectator bank near the finish line.
Oh. Yeah.
I thought it was. I was standing on the bridge. I thought it was rudder, but one of the coaches from another school thought the bow might have been far stronger than the two seat. I don't know what was happening there.
Yeah,
But that's wide
interesting.
open. MLC won the first division. This competition, this Inter 8 competition, still doesn't match the Baby 8 competition at Nationals, because when you look at who Loreto, Toorak, MGGS and MLC take up, they're none of these girls, right? This isn't the feeder for Nationals. This is the feeder for seniors. So, but it's stronger than what it was a few years ago. So you've got a nice competition with MLC, and I'm not sure whether that MLC boat's probably their fourth and fifth or something. You've got Carey doing well, Geelong College, Haileybury. In the second, Shelford made the A fighter, and deservedly so. I
Yep.
mean, they beat Geelong, Grammar, and Caulfield. So I quite like that competition. I have no idea who's going to win yet. That's all right.
Yeah,
And
that's all right.
in-
You can't expect to go know them all.
No. Well,
I'd expect you to get close though, Alan.
yeah,
What's
I'll
that,
get
80%
close. The
stat?
Victorian Championships will tell the tale.
Yep.
The top boats in quads were Ballarat Grammar again. You might remember them from last time. Firbank doing well. Loreto Toorak, Loreto Ballarat, and this time Strathie.
Yep.
Remember, there were 4 MLC quads missing, 2 Loreto Toorak quads missing, and 2 Melbourne Grammar School quads missing who were in Sydney.
Right.
But, I mean, Loreto Ballarat, and I actually met that crew with a whole bunch of other Loreto Ballarat girls on the bridge. Their first statement to me is, who's going to win? I was like, who's going to win what?
Yep.
When we worked it out, they did win. So they were pretty happy. We high fives are all round at the end of the day there. They won from Strathie, Wright and Firbank. I mean, that first division of Inters is always fabulous.
Yep.
And you can name 8 or 9 boats that could go in there at
Well,
the
it gives you
moment.
the feel for what's going to happen in the years to come, doesn't it, at that point?
It does. It's fabulous. Ballarat Grammar won the seconds. The thirds were split. Ballarat Grammar and LT were there, and the fourths, LT won. So really, the Inters were good. The parent numbers were down. It was pretty small. When I walked out with a mum from a local school who I'd met earlier in the day, and she was taking 4 girls home. And I think after 9 or 10 regattas at the Barwon, the gloss wears off. And I think if you're an inter parent near the end of your inter year, some schools have lots of parents there, and others, share.
It's funny you say that, Alan, because I was about to drag Binky back off the bench and ask her a
please.
question on this one, and I was going to say, Binky, what is your favourite venue to go and spend a day watching rowing? And I'm not talking multiple days or nationals or anything like that. I'm talking about a day of going to watch rowing. You've been to them all. You've spent many times. What's your favourite venue?
Well, I do love the Barwon, and I particularly love the Firbank Regatta for the juniors because they do such a beautiful job of it. They go to an enormous effort with the catering and the atmosphere on the banks there.
Well, it's lucky you said the Barwon because I was backing it in that you were. That's why I was going to ask the question, and just coincidentally, Alan
Is that a Dorothy
brought up
Dixon?
that comment.
And look, the schools that do host these regattas do put an enormous amount of work into it, generally parent committee, and it is good for parents to go down, not only to support their daughters, which I think really matters to the girls. They're working so hard, and the parents being there to witness their racing is really important to them.
Yep.
But also to support the schools that are going to this enormous effort to put on the event, to go down and buy a coffee and buy a sandwich and, you know, be part of the atmosphere. It's very, very social. And look, the groups of parents that even came up to New South Wales, who all have been through, you know, Scotch and Melbourne Grammar and Loretto and
the usual
NLC,
suspects.
had all different schools there. But the senior parents who have been doing it for a number of years, they're really close. They've got a great bond and friendship, and certainly in my experience, we've continued on with those friendships that we've made on the riverbank back in year 8 rowing. So, you know.
And Barwon, but the Barwon is easy to get to, right? I mean, let's face it. Except if it's, I think there's one weekend that clashes. What is it, every 2 years with the air show? But outside of that, it's not a bad venue to get to.
Yeah, and if the weather's good, it's lovely to sit on the grass there and enjoy the racing and, you know, catch up with your.
And of course, you can wander just round the corner to a little place called Little Creatures to fill in a bit of lunchtime. But I'm not suggesting anything there, of course. But you know, so I don't know if it shouldn't get monotonous, Alan. Even though I think you're 100% right. By the time they go through the process and as they get older, the parents do probably fade away a little bit, and then they start carpooling.
Well, I'll be back there at Head of Schoolgirls. I just think that when they get into that inter-year, they've really only rowed at the Barwon, where when we know at senior level they row at different venues. I'm just wondering whether at junior and inter level they can use Carrum a little bit more.
I'd love to see Carrum used more, actually. We do a Masters. Well, they didn't have it last year because, anyway, I'm not going to get into the politics of the Masters season, but I love going down to Carrum. I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't think they can use. I think they tried to use Ballarat a year or two back, and the weather was a hopeless meal, capsized. And Nagambi's too far. There was a Carey regatta up at Nagambi.
Yeah, that's right.
Juniors for a while, and that failed. And should have failed because it was too far away.
Didn't they give that a go at Carrum? Didn't they then try that at Carrum? Or am I?
No, the Carey regatta was at Carrum for a long time.
Oh, right.
Then it moved to Nagambi. Yeah.
Carrum's great because it's a quick turnaround.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's super quick turnaround. You're in the water, bang to the start, and off the water.
Yeah, there's none of this. And,
no, it's got
not
a lot
too
of
bad.
potential.
I used to call it Siberia. It's pretty bland. I think Carrum's about the only place in Victoria that you could actually put a grandstand. And I know that a past president of Rowing Victoria said to me, if you actually redid it and spent the money, you know, that's the place where you'd hold a lot of events.
I think, isn't it a bit like that that joke of the 100-metre thing with that when they're talking about the Sydney Olympics and it's only 95 metres, that'll be all right, you know, it'll just be quick times. But isn't Carrum a bit the same? I mean, they're doing it for
I
the
think it's
Olympics,
100, but I've been told you can do 2,000, but anyway.
I think they're going to have to dig out the back or something. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, so back into it.
All right, well, just quickly on the juniors. A lass from PLC won the single sculls, which is good because PLC is not often on the podium, so good
Definitely
luck to
not.
her.
That's great news.
In doubles, Toorak College saluted, and a different crew from Toorak College saluted last year to the Loretto Toorak Regatta, so that's promising.
Yep.
But speaking of Loretto Toorak, they won all 4 of the first divisions, 1, 2, 3, 4. The Division 2 and 3 was split. Interestingly, Carey won the other side of Division 2, which was really good. Very impressive.
Yep.
And you don't see Carey win too often. And I met a few people from that school, which was good.
Yep.
And Loretto Ballarat did well, but Loretto Toorak was by far the most dominant school in that division.
Yep.
Strathie were good, as was MGGS. So it was a good day.
Yep.
Got home early.
Which is also a bonus sometimes.
We saw some good rowing and a few sort of sideways stuff, which always keeps you alert. And no, I enjoyed it. It was good. And really, it was 25 or something degrees, and you can't complain about that.
No, lovely, lovely. Now, just shall we briefly cover off a bit of what happened up in New South Wales, Alan? You'll have had a bit of an eye on
Binky
a
first.
few things. Well, Binky, yeah, I don't want to throw Binky under the bus. Oh, wait, let's ask the important stuff. Binky, where was the nicest glass of wine to be had over the few days you're up there?
Well, as you probably know, there is a bar overlooking the course. It's a magnificent course. Built
Well, do you know, actually, I think I said this on the phone to you the other day. The only time I've been to the course was actually when I was swimming in that on that rowing course. It was for a triathlon last year. So that's the only time I've been to that rowing course. So I didn't see the bar, unfortunately. I would have loved to have participated in that one, but.
A few of the schools send their year 10 first 8 up to compete in the under 17s at New South Wales State Championships, and the kids just see the course and they're like, wow, this is amazing.
It's an amazing facility, isn't it?
And it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
In the schoolgirls, I mean, the boys' schools were there as well, but I'll just tell you what happened in the schoolgirls 8. St Catherine's, New South Wales had a very commanding and convincing win in that event over Pymble Ladies College. But then Loreto Toorak came third in that event.
Yep.
And Geelong College also made the final and came 8th.
Oh, that's good.
Geelong Grammar, MLC and Wesley were also up there competing. So quite a good...
That's a fairly big turnout, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah, and then you had all the small boats and quads and doubles. We had Gippsland Grammar. We had actually the MLC girls not only rowed in their 8, but they participated in single sculls, which was interesting. And one of them did really well.
Croker.
Now, I don't know what her name is. Her surname is Croker. She came 6th in the final of the schoolgirls.
As in the oars?
As in the oars, yes.
As in the oars.
And Barwon Rowing Club's Alice Joyce, who's one of my favourite girls on the river, she came 9th in the final of the schoolgirl single scull. And up in New South Wales, that's very competitive.
Well, it is a serious field, isn't it? The New South Wales Championships. I think you used the word before, precursor to nationals. You're pretty much the same field, aren't you? Certainly looking at some of the elite stuff, not to distract from what we're talking about, but some of the elite rowers there. You've got Olympians lucky to get onto a podium. That's what was going on up there.
It's really exciting for the kids as well that get the chance to go up and compete up there, because even Zara said to me, "Oh, I just saw Rhea Thompson coming out of the bathroom." She really you're rubbing shoulders with the elites, and it's really exciting for them to see. How they move those boats.
Which I think it's great that they do, when the schools do take the kids up to these events, regardless of results, they do get to see a higher level and a higher level of athletes and stuff to aspire to if that's what you want to, get out of your rowing journey, I suppose. But, I think it's great that the schools get behind it. Yeah.
And look, a lot of the events had at least 50% interstate competitors, not in so many of the school events in the younger categories, but certainly in the sort of underage categories. You had clubs from or crews from WA, Tasmania, Queensland, everywhere.
Yep. No, look, it is. I was watching it. I had it on the on YouTube, the live feed going on, and in the background, I wasn't sitting in front of the TV all weekend watching rowing, I can assure you. But I was certainly coming and going from it.
Why not?
Yeah, I do have some form of a life, be it trivial. But
I didn't know that.
But no, the people I knew who were rowing, I'd be tuning in to say, I'll see how they're going.
Guy, could I just go back to the 8th race?
Oh, yeah.
The girls' race. The interesting thing there, Binky's quite right with all those schools that were up there, but the interesting thing was that the heat of death was heat 2.
Yep.
Because it included St Catherine's, New South Wales, Pymble, Queenwood, who are devilishly clever.
Yep.
Loreto Toorak, Geelong Grammar, Wesley, and of course MLC, which Binky said, I mean, under Matt Wilson, they are doing all sorts of different things. And I rewatched that heat today. Well, when I say rewatched, I didn't see it because obviously it was at the Firbank, but I had a look today.
Yep.
So in terms of the local competition, Geelong Grammar, who haven't really done much, have beaten both Wesley and MLC in that heat.
Yeah. I can see.
And that's that. And you might think, well, that turns the competition here on its head, but it doesn't really, because it's an interstate race, and sometimes you get funny things like that happen.
Yeah.
And if you look at the under-21 results,
So, Alan, does that mean you're not rating Geelong Grammar at this point? Is that
no?
what
It's not. It's not. I'm just not moving them until I see them at the Gambie next week.
You're not convinced yet. Is that what you're saying?
No, because I watched that race today, and the water in lanes 1, 2, and 3 was it was shimmering.
Yeah.
And it wasn't rough in 7, 8, and 9, where Wesley, MLC, and Loreto Turek were. Yeah. But it wasn't shimmering.
Yeah.
Strangely though, Alan, lanes 1 and 2 and 3 were the fast lanes.
Yeah.
Certainly, well, it changed as the day went on. But with the smaller boat races at that time of day, the preferred
they were faster.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, that's what I guessed. But see, St Catherine's and Pymble came out of the middle, but I suspect that's because they're so good. I mean,
Well, I think also in eights, the what they call a wind is just a light breeze to us Victorians, you know. Sarah was saying, the wind's picking up. I said, well, that's an advantage for us because, you know, we're used to that. But yeah, the wind did pick up a little bit, but the course is relatively sheltered compared to, again, what we're used to facing. And also, I think in eights, they're less
affected by it all. I think though, you know, you certainly have a psychological advantage, especially with kids. And to any school kids listening in here, get that stuff out of your head. Just because there's a bit of wind, you've still got to row through it. But you know, but I think they get this. Oh no, that's the best lane. We didn't get that lane. We're in trouble. That's just I don't know. I get frustrated by that sort of thing.
Exactly. But I must point out also in that under 21 8, Wesley did very well. They came 6th in the final there, and MLC came 8th in that. And Geelong College and Grammar also competed in the under 21s. Loreto didn't do that particularly.
And Wesley, of course, are having a rest this week, so we don't get to see them back up, which is a shame, but never mind. Baby 8s, the Victorians didn't do too badly. MLC was 3rd, Loreto Turek 4th, and MGGS 6th.
Yeah.
Not too bad. I'm a bit fearful this year we might have the same situation we had in 2017 where we don't win one of those schoolgirl events. There's now 5 with double sculls coming in, and just looking at the results here, and particularly the results from the Barwon Regatta where MGGS split their first 8 and made a mess of the quad and 4 fleet. I'm just wondering, you know, Queenwood and St Catherine's, New South Wales are both members of my group. So
right.
I just have a fearful thought that we may not do as well this year. I'm not worried about Melbourne University and Banks and what have you, but I'm just, in terms of the schoolgirl fleet, I'm just a little bit suspicious. Anyway.
Well, that's good. It keeps you on your toes, Alan. If it was easy, then, you know.
Yeah. Binky mentioned the schoolgirl single scull with Croker and Alice. Alice is lovely. I like Alice a lot. And we had some other good results. The lasses from Coral in New South Wales, McFarlane and Rob, were 5th in lightweight doubles, and Ball and McComb were 3rd. A lass called Zara Kafuri, as I said earlier, was 4th in the single scull. I'm just going through the list here, Binky. The other interesting one in the lightweights, I quite like the lightweights, as you probably know. Lightweight under 21s, Adelaide Robb was 6th again. She was the lass I was pushing up about 2 years ago as being a potential lightweight. and Alyssa Mirabelli, who I know also was fifth. So those two girls have done quite nicely there. Interestingly, in the schoolgirl quad, Gippsland Grummers come fourth. Considering they were potentially our top boat, this is why I'm a fraction worried. Not sure whether that's good result for them, but in terms of Victoria at Nationals, not too sure. And of course, I should mention that I think the CV Max, Katie McNeil and Clodagh McCarthy won bronze in, what was it, the under-19 pair and the schoolgirl doubles, I think, from memory. Was that right? Yeah, something like that. They are exceptional, those two.
I think the other thing worth pointing out is the level of entries in these events. We're talking of first, second, third, fourth, or whatever, but the level of entries is enormous. It's not like a standard regatta. I mean, you look at the under 21 single, 22 entries. There's a lot of people against you.
Think you can explain why they row more doubles and singles in New South Wales and Queensland.
Well, in particular, this regatta, it is a selection regatta. So if you want to make the national team or the Victorian state team, you must row a small boat.
Yep.
New South Wales State Championships and a big boat.
Right. So hence why so many entries.
Yeah, I mean that's not in school rowing, of course, but you get a lot of Victorian entries for that reason.
Yep. And
people in pairs and singles that maybe don't always row that boat.
They must hate it, wouldn't they? Getting thrown into the singles. As we all know, you're fully on show in the single. There is nowhere to hide.
I think most of the nominated have chosen to row a pair.
Yeah. Because you got one other person to blame at least. But it is a tough. I love singles. I'm a massive fan of singles, and as I've said many times, Alan, you've heard me say it relentlessly, is how much respect I have for the kids, boys and girls, the youngies especially, that get into a single, and they just expose themselves. They tip over. They go through all of that. It's seriously courageous, I think.
Now, Guy, I was a bit surprised. I don't think there's a full fleet in that Gambie Gold male single scull. I was wondering when you were going to put your entry in.
Well, yeah, that's well. There's only 8 spots, isn't there? So I suppose you can only come 8.
I think there's 7 at the moment. You might be a late entry.
Yeah, I think the problem with that, and I'll very briefly mention a story of when I got back into rowing in the early 90s after a bit of a stint out of rowing, and I blew out to about 103 kilos, and I'm not a tall guy, so I was rather large. I jumped in a single scull, and this was up at Ngambie, the old course, and away I go, and I reckon I had about a 3-length lead after 20 strokes. And then the next thing you know, I'm battling along, and I think I was about 800 metres in, and the next thing over the microphone is, would Guy Besley from Latrobe Uni please clear the course? The next race is coming down. I think it'd be a similar experience.
Well, I was saying to my daughter tonight, who, as you know, is director of rowing of a particular club, that they should all go out and watch those events. Because I think particularly her club, because one of the girls, initials AB, Amanda Bateman, was probably the best rower to come out of that school.
Yep.
And so I think that'll be particularly exciting. The other goss coming out of next week is that our old friends Wrighton are rowing on Sunday. So you'll be able to report on them. In an absolute, I don't know whether it's the formal, maybe on Friday night, so they can't row Saturday. I have no idea what it is. But the elite squad from Q is rowing Sunday clubs.
Oh, right. Okay.
Please explain, Guy.
Yeah, well, I can't explain. I have no idea why they're doing that.
Well, but you'll be there, mate. You can.
I will be there. I will be there, and I've got a fairly busy day on Sunday. I'm looking forward.
Well, I've had a look. You've got a few gaps.
Yeah, no, but that's to be filled. Don't worry, it's not done. Not done yet. You know how they work with coxswains. They just throw us around wherever and whenever, and the next thing you know, you've got an extra few things that, well, the problem we have with Ngambie, and this is why I said I love Carrum from a coxing perspective and masters rowing, because we want to do as many races as we can, is with Carrum, you can just jump out of a boat into the next and you can do 10 races in a day. And it's like Rutherglen. Whereas at Ngambie, it's a whole different proposition, because by the time you finish, get back around to the boat park, get into another boat, get to the start. You can only get sort of one in a bracket, and there's only 4 brackets. But anyway, I'm not going to whinge about that. That's the way it is.
It's
but I'm
interesting,
hoping to have a few more things pop up.
Something that some of the listeners are probably unaware of is how club rowing works, and you often have school rowing on the Saturday and underage events or age events, shall I say, and then you have the club rowing the following day.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
Club rowing and in age category rowing, there's a lot of jumping in and out of different crews and swapping around boats, and it's a lot more flexible. And there's also the potential to do composite crews.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference between school rowing and club rowing. And I've often heard parents say, "Oh, we're a month out from head of the schoolgirls, and they're still changing people in the boat, and it's terribly stressful that they won't have time to,
they won't be able to work together because they don't."
So and I sort of say, well, to give an example, that boat that Zara rowed in on the weekend, they rowed together for the first time on their way to the start line.
Yeah.
And they did that at Nationals in a slightly different combination last year. She rowed in various composites throughout the season, and they're just expected to be able to do the job.
I think you've raised a ripper thing there. Firstly, that they do have the opportunity to race on the Saturday and the Sunday, but I reckon as you're talking, I'm sort of picking up that it might be more character building in a way for the kids doing the club rowing into the whole real world of life. We always talk about rowing being such a great learning environment for all sorts of things that are important in the real world. And I reckon that, just listening to what you're saying there, that would come straight into play, because you just got to jump in there, you got to get on with it and make it work.
It's also fun, to be able to try a different combination and it's competitive, of course, but it's not life and death. If the combination doesn't work, it's okay.
It's only sport, isn't it? It's only sport, but jeepers, we do think it's life and death at times.
Remember, I was talking to you after the Regatta, the Wendouree Ballarat Regatta, about that great race between Barwon and Albert Park.
Oh yeah, yes.
Remember I said there were the 2 Albert Park double scullers?
Yep, putting them together or something. Yep.
That was the first time they'd rowed together over 2,000 metres. And they almost won that against Barwon, which might win head of schoolgirls. That just bears out what Binky's just said.
Yeah, absolutely. And
a classy rower can get in just about any boat.
Yeah. Yep.
Of course, it's ideal with the schoolgirl crews that they have time to bond as a crew and to refine their technique together and to have that team building kind of thing. But it's not something to get stressed about. I think if there are minor crew changes and people get sick and people, there's all sorts of reasons why you have to be a bit flexible and adaptable.
Yep, agree completely. Again, it sounds a bit like the real world, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
You've got to adapt. Anything else, Alan? We're really marching on in time.
No, we're just about done. Just next week at Ngambie, 9 of the 12 8 schools are competing. So Caulfield Grammar's got a lot of its year 12s back.
Yep.
After, I think they had a formal or whatever. Anyway, so that's good. St Catherine's, Lauriston and Wesley, as I said earlier, the only ones not competing. That under 21 quad scull is proving to be the most exciting event on the program.
Yep.
This weekend, you've got Albert Park, Ballarat Grammar, which is rowing a quad, and they did that brilliantly at the Melbourne Head. Then you've got Banks.
Yep.
And that crew's quite handy. Then you've got the Barwon crew, which is fantastic.
The next 2 are interesting too, Alan.
Yes, I was going to skip over Finder, but we'll just say that. Then you've got MGC, which is just a brilliant crew. and then you've got the in amongst those three Strathconas, you've got the first. That is an excellent race.
Yeah.
Now you put Corowa and which is racing Q1 later, which some of these boats aren't, and put Wrighton in there, and you've got an absolute cracker.
Yeah.
That's probably the best other fleet apart from the 8. So I reckon.
So you'll have to be up
small
at
boats are good too.
Nagambie early to catch that one, because that's event.
Oh, that's all right. Potholes at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, yeah, gotta love it.
No, there's some really
I'm
good
sorry.
races.
So just to interrupt there, Alan Binky, you'll be very averse with potholes after this season, heading to Mount Buller, won't you?
Oh my goodness, don't get me started.
No, we better not get started on that. Sorry to sidetrack, Alan. Back to what you were saying.
Well, I mean, hopefully this week we'll see Clarendon, Grammar, and Loreto Ballarat face off in Division 1. Somebody from Loreto Ballarat said, "Oh, how are we going?" I just said, "Can you kindly get on the water in a 4?" Yeah, and that whole 4s competition just hasn't occurred this year. I don't know whether it's ducks and drakes, but it just has not happened, which is a real shame because they're running out of time if they think they're going to be competitive at nationals. Look, there's that under 21 single scull where Zara's competing. You've got Constantina, who's more than handy. Lucy Richardson, our Aussie bronze medalist. Alice Joyce is in there. This last Schlicht was a Strathcona girl. She was 6 at the Melbourne Head. Hasn't rode single sculls, I don't think, since. And you've got Thea Cook. Really looking forward to that event also. There's some great events there.
I'm going to take a guess that I met her father, Chris Schlicht, from Powerhouse the other. I'm guessing it's her father.
You probably did.
Probably is, yeah.
I met her too, but she sort of disappeared off the scene for a while. But thankfully, Strathy's put her in. She's at Yarra Yarra here, but she's a Strathy girl. Thankfully, she's in a single because she's got talent. 6 at the Melbourne Head was a good performance. So fantastic.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Not looking forward to driving up on the Hume in the dark.
No. Or worse still, coming home at the end of it all.
Oh, don't worry. It's going up in the dark that I get it.
Yeah, it gets a bit late, especially if the weather's lousy. But it's going to be lovely weather. It's going to be lovely weather. A bit warm, as you were saying before, but anyway, that's all right. All good. Well, that's Saturday, and you said some are going to be hanging around for the Sunday, so...
Yes. And there's a lot of schools rowing Sunday. Footscray High School's rowing Sunday.
Yep.
Footscray High School is almost a fully fledged rowing school. Almost. They probably need another 10 girls. They were particularly nice people, and so let's hope after losing 3 rowing schools we gain 1 back.
Yep.
I'd love to see an opportunity for schools with, say, less than 20 or 10 or whatever the number is, students participating in rowing, maybe having the chance to do composite crews.
Interesting.
That would just open it up to so many more schools, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's a really good idea, Alan. There's something for you to work on, no? You've got your Shelford Shield now. You
have
can
to
work
convince.
on your, We're just frozen.
Alan's frozen. Well,
Alan's frozen. Maybe the idea just gave him such a shock that his internet has crashed.
I just think if we
the modem has moved, guys. It's no longer in the vicinity.
Sorry?
We've got what's that thing? The fibre cable.
Oh yeah, NBN.
But unfortunately, the connection is in a different part of the house.
Oh
so,
never mind.
I freeze quite regularly.
It must be the same time as when someone else must be jumping on the. I don't know how it works.
But
anyway, look, we've
there's a lot of people live in this house, Carl.
If we allowed more schools to compete in a more cost-effective way, it's a huge amount of money for a school to try to launch a rowing program.
Oh God, yeah.
If we had rules that allowed schools to sort of amalgamate or something for events, maybe it could open the door for non-traditional rowing schools to participate.
Yeah, great idea. Anything that creates interest and gets people out doing sport is a good idea, I reckon. Well, I tell you what, we probably should wind it up because we've been nearly going an hour tonight. Binky, has been fantastic having you on board. It won't be the last time, I can assure you. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for you, I don't know. But we will be dragging your opinions in on a regular basis, assuming you want to participate. I'm hoping you do.
Thank you for inviting me. It was something different and enjoyable. Thank you.
No worries at all. And Alan, as usual, a great coverage of everything that's been happening in the schoolgirls rowing community over the weekend and what's ahead of us. So until next Monday night, when we can hear about what happens up at Ngambie, have a good one, and we will be in touch.
See you there.
See you there. See you, Alan. He's frozen again. Good old Alan.
Cut him off.
Maybe he's just said, "Oh, look, I've had enough of this lot. I'm out of here." Oh, well, that's what happens when you're performing live. We can't make
stop recording.
Oh, there he is. No, we're still recording.
Oh, you stop recording?
Yeah, I'll stop recording. It says your bandwidth's low. No, I haven't stopped recording. You can say I'm saying goodbye on your behalf, Alan, and then I'll stop recording. How's that? So, on behalf of Alan,
I feel like Sir Humphrey Appleby when he got recorded when he didn't think it was being recorded.
No, well, we're still recording. Okay. So watch what you say. All right, on behalf of Alan, I'm going to say goodbye on behalf of Alan. So see you guys. Thank you all very much.
All right.